Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christy, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so honored that you are choosing to spend the next 30 or so minutes with us, and I have a fabulous guest who might be one of the kindest humans I've ever met, maybe in my life. Valerie Smith is here with us today. She's the CEO of The Solution, and we're going to talk about what that is in a minute. But before we can dive in, I need you to follow this podcast, please. Because that's how other people find me. So if you are liking what you're hearing and you're gathering those nuggets of wisdom, just hit follow, subscribe wherever you're watching, and that way you'll get notifications every time a new episode drops. So Valerie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. You really are one of the kindest people I know and one of the funniest. So we're probably going to get into a story or two that will be entertaining too. But people choose to keep listening after about 30 seconds. And so I need you to tell us something about you that will make people want to keep listening.
Oh, why will people want to keep listening? Okay, I do have stories because, Christy, you know this, but my first career was as a high school English teacher. And you do not make it through one day, much less 7 years of teaching high school students without having some really hilarious experiences. And I have found that those funny moments are the things that carry me on hard days and hard moments, because perspective is an incredible thing to have that we all need. So I've got a flat tire story that I can share at some point in this podcast. It's very recent, very relevant.
Yes, we're going to share your flat tire story for sure. But you started as a high school teacher. You didn't land there. So tell us where you ended up and how you got there.
Sure. Crazy. No path is a straight line, right? At least
Definitely not.
So I grew up in a family. My dad was a professor, a university professor. And at the age of 82, he just retired from being a professor, but he is still working, still writing, still thinking. So education has always been a huge part of who I am. And it felt like a very natural course of study in college, vocation post-college. So I received my degree in English from FSU. We have a mutual love of our Seminoles.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And so after graduating, I actually went back to teach English at the high school I attended, which was crazy. And it was a high school where both of my in-laws taught. At one point, my husband taught there. My best friend taught there. My sorority sister, little sister taught there. It was this wonderful, wonderful cocoon in a lot of ways for me. And I developed who I was as a teacher, in a lot of ways as a person, as a professional in that educational atmosphere. And I've just carried it forward with me. And during that time, I have a creative side, the kooky creative side of me. And I had the wonderful opportunity to work at a nonprofit youth theater and school for the performing arts here in Tallahassee. It's called Young Actors Theater, about to celebrate a 50th anniversary. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work there part-time while I taught. And eventually, at the time my son was born, I had an opportunity to work there full-time. So the education world, especially with high school English, became very dictated by testing, which I did not foresee would bring me joy for 30 years. So I decided this is a way I can work with kids and families and be creative and not have to teach to a test. So I moved into that space first in a creative way, but then became managing director and really worked on a lot of the operations of the theater and the school, which I loved. And then from there, moved into the association world. So that is how I am now the CEO of The Solution. It's kind of a crazy
Path.
series of steps, but I love where I am. I love what I am doing. So
Well,
that's
I don't know
exciting.
everybody can say that, right? So the fact that you can say you love where you are and you love what you're doing is huge. And I'm not sure that everybody would just know what you mean when you say you work with associations. So why don't you give us you told me a very cool little tagline for the solution. And so I'd love for you to explain what a boutique professional services firm is.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot, right? So the boutique part is that we really have sort of a concierge style. We like to build relationships because relationships are where positive impact happens.
Mhm.
So professional services, we provide those management services to nonprofit trade and professional organizations. So think 501c3, 501c6 organizations. We do consulting. We work on strategic planning and guidance. And we do also absolute full service management from answering the phones, dealing with membership, taking care of lobbying efforts, working on events, putting on conventions and trade shows, hosting webinars, all of those things, which it's kind of a different thought for people. But two things that I think are important in this. It's very interesting that 7 out of 10 adults has some connection with an association, whether you realize it or not. And think about whether or not if you own a home and you're part of a homeowners association, if you were in a fraternity or sorority in college, if you volunteered with the American Red Cross or the American Heart Association, those are all societies, associations. That is what we do. We help grow leaders. We help protect and grow industries by empowering the members to become leaders in those different industries. So it's really, really exciting.
Well, and I've watched you at work. So we met through the Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals that my husband's a part of. And I have seen you throw one of the best conferences I've ever been to. And literally beginning to end, all of the details down to lying in the floor with your feet up in one of the ballrooms because you had been on your feet for 3 solid days, making sure that everything happened. So you are excellent at what you do. And you've built a beautiful team of people around you. And so I want to go in this direction with this conversation. You're doing this. This is different from what you were trained to do as a high school English teacher. And yet we orchestrate things all day long as educators. Let's be real clear. And then you went into theater and then you moved on to what you're doing now. What would you call productive joy? Because I think you found it. You said, I love what I do. I love my company. I love the people that I work with. But can you define for me what productive joy is?
Well, such a great question. And I love the name of this podcast
Isn't it fun?
because it is. It's so fun. And I think it's so important because productive is an incredible word. And productive is a process.
Mhm.
And it's not a destination. And I think so much we focus on the destination. And a mountaintop, you don't stay on a mountaintop.
No.
You look for the next mountain, you continue to climb. And I think people undervalue the process.
Ooh.
So productive joy for me is being, I don't even want to say happy because to me, joy is so much more than happiness.
Yeah.
There are times I don't feel happy, but I am joyful because I know I'm in the right place, doing the right things with the right people. And that process is moving forward. And sometimes it's not at the rate I want it to go. It's not on the path I want it to go, but my age and wisdom, I've learned that perspective really is an incredible gift. And I can step back and see that even though it's not exactly where I would have directed it if I were in control of all things, it is in a great place because of the process. And again, back to education, what we learn in that process. If we just went to the destination, we would miss everything that we need to learn.
Well, and you said that you help grow leaders in the space that you're in too. How do you translate that brilliant discovery of the fact that it is a process and that you don't arrive and nothing can stay on the mountaintop forever? How do you instill that in the leaders that you're growing? What are ways that you are able to get that point into them as well?
I think it's really important to first, I talked about relationship. And one reason, so a lot of association management companies, let me just backtrack a smidge to give you the context. A lot of them, and it works for a lot of different associations, a lot of times bigger associations, they might have anywhere from 6 to 10 people working on a client. Someone does events, someone does membership, somebody does government affairs, someone does the website. And what we do at the solution is those relationships are so important. They are built with not 6 to 8 people, but if I can have anywhere from 2 to 3 people on a client and someone, you mentioned your husband with FAMP, if through the relationship I build with Jason, I can learn about his wife and all the incredible things that Dr. Christy McMullen does. And I know about his incredible children. And then I learn about other leaders. And once I get to know them, I can see what their natural skills, what their gifts are. With my ears, I can listen and hear what they're interested in developing. And then the plan is, how can I, in my role within this association or this nonprofit, what opportunities? Because in any organization, there are 500 opportunities at any given time. You can't focus on all of them at once.
No, you can't.
But here I have someone who wants to be involved, wants to develop. I have that conversation. I talk to people. Do you want to get more involved? What are you thinking? And then it's kind of like a dating app. You match up what this person has to offer, what they want to learn with the opportunities that you have. And then you enable them to work on that. And when you match it correctly, you usually have success.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about a whole bunch of leadership lessons in there, and I think the biggest one is leveraging people's talents. But you can't leverage people's talents unless you know what people's talents are. So you have to get to know the humans in this equation first and foremost, and then figure out what their target is and get them to be able to reach that target. So you mentioned that your company is called The Solution, and I really, really liked what you said to me before we started. Why is your company called The Solution? And why is that an important leadership lesson too?
Definitely. I love the name of our company. And the reason I love it is because you don't need a solution unless you have a problem, an issue, a question, which all of those are opportunities. And that is what we are. We are the solution for those different situations. Changing all associations and organizations are basically volunteer run for the most part. There's an executive committee, there's a board of directors, and they're run by volunteers. It is not fun. It is not an easy process to change your management company because, I mean, that's just not easy. So when people come to us and they're talking about, yeah, maybe it's time for a change, or we're faced with a change because people are retiring, it's can be a very daunting task. But we can go to them, talk to them about where you are, where do you want to go. All of those conversations become those opportunities, and we'll you want an event? Well, we are the solution for events. We are the solution for membership. We are the solution. And with association management, my team's professional development is really important. I think, I keep saying all things with me go back to education and what my base is. And so I provide professional development opportunities for my team members. The person who was the founder of the solution, her name is Dot Miller, and I actually acquired the company from her and became CEO. She's been a great mentor to me. And she told me that. She said, company culture is real. And either you determine it and you set it, or it just happens by chance.
Yeah.
And you decide what you want to do. And professional development was very important to her. So all of our team members, if it's their first year in association management or their 25th year, we have them as a member. Every state has a state association of association executives. So they're all parts of that. We recommend that they are board members. They serve on committees because that's the way we find out best practices. And we can then bring those best practices back to our clients. So we always have to learn and grow and pass on. And that's really important in our culture.
Well, and you just dropped a whole bunch of really great ideas for any other leader who's leading humans. And the couple things that I'm latching onto here. So opportunity is my word for 2024, my personal word, right? Because I like to turn problems into opportunities. I want to seek opportunities, all that good stuff. And you said that the solution solves our problems, but it really creates opportunities, right? It gives people the opportunity to see things differently. So I love that. I love that you recognize the value of growing your people and giving them the professional learning they need in order to be successful, because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be terrible at my job today. But if you're not given the right tools, right? That's something that I do for companies, is go in and help them have the right tools so that people can be good at their jobs. And then the last piece is just knowing your humans. Like, you have to know them to grow them. You have to recognize this person has this talent, this person has that talent. And it sounds like you do that for the companies that you work for too, which are all brilliant things that you've learned somewhere along the way, probably from those brilliant parents who are 82 and have been educators their entire lives. And lots of people along the way. But something that I want to dig deeper into, you mentioned that you got a flat tire yesterday. It won't be yesterday from when this airs, but yesterday from when we are recording. And I'm going to use that as leverage. So you're going to tell us the tire story because it's a good one. And we're going to use that as a leadership lesson for what do you do when you're not necessarily equipped to handle the problem that the solution has been taught to handle. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened on I-10, and then let's see if we can't figure out how that is something that the solution helps solve.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Still very fresh. Still very fresh. So it's important for everyone to know that if I can be a passenger in a vehicle, I prefer that. My husband loves to drive. I love to passenger. And we're just a great team that way. And I always say, if I had $1 gazillion, like, I'd buy a private plane. I would have a driver. I would have a driver because I just would. So Aubrey Lee and I, who's one of our team members, we were in Orlando for a site visit. We were driving back, admiring the beautiful sunset as we are heading west on I-10, past Live Oak. And I'm talking to my parents on Bluetooth, going through the appointments for the week. And I thought I heard something strange. I wasn't sure. I told my Mom, I got to go. Hung up the phone. And I hear this, the thud, the thud, the thud.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's odd. And I look at my dashboard, Christy, and I see this orange light, which in my head means cruise control. No, it's a tire light.
Yes, that part.
Yeah, very similar color and location on the dashboard. So I'm like, I have a flat tire at that point. Yeah. So I start to pull over safely. And of course, my phone rings again, and it's my mom. Like, Valerie, we need to finish our conversation. I'm like, Mom, flat tire. I can't talk. not the thing to say to the 82-year-old mother, bless, but there we go. But life is messy. It is messy. The sun was setting. We were traveling west, and it was the back driver's side tire. So the one that is right there by the road. We're all the things. It's cold. We're not properly dressed. And there were a million things that just made me want to scream, throw a tantrum, lose my mind. And I did for about 15 seconds.
Okay.
Then I realized, okay, that's going to do nothing. So I promptly called my husband.
Yes. Solution. That was your good solution.
But we went through and they said it was fine. And
did you change the tire?
No.
Oh, good.
No. I called my roadside assistance from my insurance. Aubrey Lee called AAA. We were like, let's see who gets here first. Battle it out. And lovely Trent came and changed the tire. And then I had the little donut that's not supposed to be driven on the interstate going 50 miles an hour. But Aubrey Lee and I spent the whole time going through, let's think of every situation that could have been worse. Day before, it was raining. What if it was actually back when we were on the turnpike, which is under construction and there are no shoulders anywhere? What if I had been alone? What if a list goes on and suddenly that's the perspective? You know what? It's fine. In less than an hour, the tire was changed. We went on our way. There was no accident. No one was hurt. There was no property damage other than I had to get a tire this morning. So it's perspective. It's silver lining. It brings me peace. And we had our solution.
Well, and you were the solution. And I think what I hear in that is that you had a choice and you made the choice to see the good, even though the bad was loud and literally going ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk in your back windshield, right? Or back of your car. And you chose not to let that steal the joy that we are talking about here, right? That productive joy. The other thing that you probably didn't even see in your solution is that you and Aubrey Lee both solved the problem simultaneously and then let whichever one happened first be the way you went. And that's what I've seen from your team is that you've empowered the women that work for you to come up with their own solutions, even if you already have one. And you let them go with it if theirs is better. And that's the trait of a great leader that I have seen in you is that it doesn't matter who comes up with the solution. And it doesn't matter when in the grand scheme of things it happens, it's that the best solution. So I'm curious, was it your roadside assistance or was it AAA?
It was actually roadside assistance, which was surprising.
Interesting.
It was surprising, but there we go. It happened.
Well,
and thank you for those comments. That's one of those things, Christy, that I really do try to be intentional about.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate on our team that we have our team members range in age from 23 to 65.
Yeah.
And there's so much incredible work that happens with collaboration with that experience and those generations. And that's something I deeply value.
Well, and that's clear. It's clear in just who you are that you value who people are and what they bring to the table. You want people to be successful in your space. That's what the solution does for others, but that's what great leaders do. Right? It doesn't matter if you're running a conference or if you are running an office building or if you are running people virtually. If we recognize people's talents and we leverage those talents, so this is my definition of fun, right? Where I'm getting ready to ask you yours, so be ready. My definition of fun is that people feel valued and appreciated, that they have a voice and that they are allowed to use that voice, and that you're leveraging their talents to contribute to the greater good. So valued and appreciated, saying thank you, making sure that they know that they're valued, that you see them. the voice is really about, okay, so I have an opinion here, right? Aubrey Lee had a different idea than you did, and both were great. And one of them solved the problem, but you were both in it. And then leveraging talents, putting people in the right seats. So I'm curious, what's your definition of fun?
Definition of fun. I think at this point, just my really concise definition would be something that is memorable.
Oh,
If it's memorable, to me, it's fun. And it might be that it's memorable me experiencing secondhand someone. There's nothing more entertaining to me than seeing people have fun. That makes me very happy. So I think that's how I would gauge if I had a fun day, a fun experience. Of would just be if it were memorable.
I'm going to guess your flat tire turned out to be a little more fun than you anticipated it would be because you didn't do it alone. Had you done it alone?
Oh,
not so much.
This discussion would have been way different if I had been alone. I hope I still would have been finding some joy, but I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you on that one for sure.
Being honest.
Okay. Well, as on the vein of honesty, how do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
It's a great question. I feel it in my gut because, and I have learned to, listen to your gut, listen to your gut over and over. And for a period of time, what is that?
Yeah.
That's vague. I don't know what that is. But if I am not having to think about what other people are thinking, feeling, it matters to me, obviously, because I care about humans. But the way I know I'm being authentic is because things are just easy. This conversation is easy for me.
Yeah.
Because, and that's also because of you, and it's easy to be authentic with you. But the conversation might be different depending on who the interviewer was. And then that would be that gut check for me of, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Because at the end of the day, I love to work hard. I love to play hard. I love to have impact and make a difference in people's lives. But I'm just me.
Yeah.
And some people love that and some people don't. And I can't be anything other than who I am.
No, you can't, Valerie. And the older I get, the more I realize that on every single day.
Too hard, right? It's too hard.
It's exhausting when you don't even know, like, oh, who am I today? And who am I in this space? No, we don't need that.
No.
But I have another rapid fire question for you. I didn't even tell you this was rapid fire, but here we go. We've got two more. Next question. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Oh, best self, worst days. Man, those happen, don't they?
Uh-huh.
So number one, I do try to focus myself every day in the morning because I never know what that day is going to hold.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be a great day, bad day. I don't know if someone is going to hurt my feelings, hurt a team. I don't know. So I try to focus. I do a morning devotional every morning to just try to have that perspective before I start. So that's one thing. The other thing, anyone who knew me in my 20s, probably they would say 30s. Maybe I started learning in my 40s. But I always say I was born without a filter between my brain and my mouth. And I really had to develop that. And so that is something that I have to I try to be a little slower to speak so that I can be intentional. My word last year was intentional.
Nice.
And I have actually carried it over. I'm still doing intention. And now I've added to it prioritize because
Ooh.
that's another one that's hard for me. But so those things, trying to be intentional, trying to focus in the morning, also having a great group of people who surround me and support me. And if I'm going to have a moment where I might fly off the handle, I'm not a real fly off the handle person, but let's pretend like I was, that I could reach out to someone and say, hey, you got 5 minutes. I have to say something.
Yeah.
So those people are really important.
They are. And I strive to be that person for others. And I strive to remember that I need that person sometimes, because I think I somewhere along the way learned that I was supposed to be able to handle it all myself. And that's just stupid.
Yeah, there's a good bit of undoing that you have to do sometimes in your life.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so last question. What do you want people to remember from this podcast? If they can only remember one thing, what would that one thing be?
I think it's important for people to realize that life is messy, personal, professional. In this day and age, Christy, we all try to be the best. We try to put out the best perception online. We want to be the best in our family, best. And that's all great, but life is messy. There are flat tires. There are so many things that are thrown at us that are real and impactful and happen to people, not only us, but people we love, our children, our spouses, our friends. And I think it's really important to be authentic, that life is messy and that's okay. And that there are solutions to that mess. There are opportunities within that mess. Just like I took my 15 seconds yesterday to have my temper tantrum and all that. But then it didn't devalue the stress and the anxiety and the fear that I was feeling. Those things were real, but I had to move past it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I want people to remember.
I think they will.
It's okay that it's messy. It's going to be. If it's not messy, I don't know. You're lying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And you're really not accomplishing much, right? Because the messy is the process. And if you just arrive, you didn't really make anything happen.
I'm sure.
For sure. So you are pretty fantastic at what you do. I've seen you in action, and I'm going to guess that somebody from this podcast is going to want to know how to get in touch with you. So how might someone get in touch with the solution because they have a problem that you need to help them solve?
For sure. Well, the two best ways are probably through email, which is Valerie at thesolutionwebsite.com, or on LinkedIn, Valerie Smith. If they follow, well, shouldn't there be something about if they follow your podcast, Christy?
Yeah.
Then they'll see this.
Yes, they will.
So when you're seeing this, follow Christy and her podcast, and then follow me, and then send me a message.
Love it. And Valerie Smith is a fairly common name. So Valerie, spell Valerie for them because they also can't find it.
Yes. Valerie.
Very important. Lots of ways to spell it. We don't want to get it wrong. So Valerie, thank you for choosing to spend time with us today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and for just being a light in this not so bright world. You absolutely light up a room. Every time I am ever near you, I think, she just exudes kindness. That's the word that I want to use. You're authentically kind. And I'm really lucky to have had the chance to cross paths with you. And now everybody else has too. How fun is that?
You are the best connector. And I am so thankful that you let me come on this podcast and share. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you did. And so, friends, you got lots of nuggets of wisdom today. And I'm hopeful that you will turn one of those into a different way of work, because that's really the goal of this podcast, is for you to learn how to turn fun into action.